Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to the show, and thank you for tuning in. I want to say a quick thanks to my guest on last week's episode, Director of Special Events at Festival of Arts and Pageant of the Masters in Laguna Beach, Susan Davis. If you didn't get to hear it, you can listen to all of our episodes at entertalkradio.com/makingit or download our app and take us with you. Also, be sure to tune in for our upcoming episodes with drummer Ndugu Chancellor, bassist Nathan East, choreographer Bill Prudish, and music manager, author, and creator-organizer of We Are the World, Ken Cragen. I'd like to take a moment to also thank the companies that help me sound my best, whether I'm recording and performing or producing music. Blue Microphones, Taylor Guitars, Seymour Duncan Pickups, Mesa Boogie Amps, D'Addario Strings and Planet Waves, Motu Digital Performer, IK Multimedia, and Exotic Effects. So often I get asked questions about the creative process. So I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. You're really in for a treat, as I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music, to share their stories on how they have influenced the music that has shaped our lives. I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest this week is Cameron Smith. Cameron Smith has been an internationally recognized TV personality since 1976 as the teen host for Canada's Disco DAZE in Edmonton, Alberta. At 20, he moved to the United States to pursue a radio and television career. Smith co-hosted and produced the legendary Wolfman Jack show on KODZ and was the morning host of Smooth Jazz 107.5 The Oasis in Dallas. Cameron is currently the program director and midday host at the all-new Oasis Modern Jazz at CBS Radio in Dallas. He is a senior account director at CBS Radio, the artistic director of both the Bishop's Art Jazz Series and Warren Hill's Cancun Jazz Festival. He also serves as co-host of the Dave Koz and Friends at Sea Cruise each year and as host curator of the Java Jazz Festival in Jakarta, Indonesia. He's also an artist in residence at Bishop Arts Modern Gallery. As the executive producer of Smooth Jazz TV, he founded, syndicated, and hosted more than 320 episodes of the show over 14 seasons, broadcast in more than 30 major U.S. markets, and carried globally on 15 airlines in 11 different countries. Cameron has interviewed hundreds of artists for television, including Al Jarreau, Sting, George Benson, Chris Bodie, Aaron Neville, Brian McKnight, Patty Austin, and many others. His long-form syndicated radio interviews span the pantheon of jazz, from Jon Hendricks to John Patitucci, David Sanborn, and Randy Brecker. Film work includes the lead role as Adam Goodnight in Bernie Pollack's jazz noir drama The Riff. And as a writer, his syndicated jazz columns have appeared in Jazz Is, Wine and Jazz, Arizona Vines and Wines, and others. He was a 20-year at-large board member of the Dallas Black Dance Theater. Awards include 7-time nominee and 2011 winner of the Smooth Jazz Broadcaster of the Year, as well as CBS Radio X Award winner in Dallas in 2014. Please welcome to the show today my guest, Cameron Smith. Welcome, Cameron.
Wow, Terry, it's a pleasure to be here. That's quite an introduction. I hope I can live up to it all.
You already have, and it's just so everybody knows, I shortened your bio because there are a lot more interesting things that we'll be talking about over this next hour. But I thought it was really important for people to know that you are more than meets the eye. I know that probably most people know you as a radio show host and TV host, and as co-host of the Dave Koz cruises and of course the Jakarta Festival. But there's a lot more to the picture of your life.
I've always been hyper creative. So I really have a thirst for music, art, literature, dance. I love to see creative people in their element doing what they do at a very high level, and it's something that I'm just passionate about, and it's something I've always continued to explore. So I'm always kind of looking ahead at the horizon. I really don't like to look back.
Mm-hmm. Your career has been pretty remarkable, interviewing artists. In your interviews, you bring a great deal of clarity and insight because you're an artist yourself. I'm wondering, do you enjoy talking about yourself as well, or do you prefer to be the one asking the questions?
I really prefer asking the questions, but that's okay. It's always interesting to be on this side of the desk, if you will.
Yes.
So it's probably a great exercise for me to kind of take stock and just kind of see where I'm at, spiritually, creatively. But yeah, I'd much rather be asking you the questions, Terry. But that's okay. Well, this is going to be really fun.
Yeah, it will be, and I've been looking forward to this, and I'll return the favor, and you can ask me questions at another point or through this show as well. Feel free.
No, this is fine.
This show is really about the creative process. It's about creating a career and maintaining a career. It's really conversations between artists, for and about. So, and when I say artist, I mean of all kinds. So let's talk about you starting off. You began your life in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and then you moved to Dallas, Texas. It's two parts to this question. What was it like growing up in Alberta, and how did you end up choosing Dallas as your place to live?
Well, as a young boy in Canada, my mother was a very accomplished dance instructor, ballet, tap, jazz, and my father was an educator. He was an athletics coach. He was a swim coach, football coach, hockey coach, but he was also he loved jazz. And so I was in a really creative environment. There was 6 kids in the family, 3 boys and 3 girls. I was number 5 in the pecking order, so I was the 5th youngest. I was the 5th of 6. So there was many that came before me, all of whom were very creative. My older brother Murray has a master's in jazz composition. My oldest brother is a civil engineer, and then my 2 sisters. My oldest sister is the artist in residence at the National Ballet School in Toronto. She's a modern dancer. She's been there for almost 30 years. As a non-balletic dancer, she's the artistic director there at the ballet school, and it's a world-renowned ballet school.
That's pretty remarkable.
It was so. And then I have another sister who was a tremendous gymnast in what my father would call the artistic sports, diving. My father was a diving coach as well. And then my youngest sister was a photographer. So I was in the middle. I was an athlete, but I loved music, and I was a disc jockey, a club DJ when I was very young. But growing up in that environment was so incredible because there's so much going on in the house. Right. There's always music, dance, creativity. We're setting plays, all kinds of shenanigans in the house. But my dad would always take time on Sunday, start about noon, and we had the rumpus room, you would call it in Canada, like the family room, and he would get his hi-fi. He had an old console stereo, and he had a great vinyl collection of jazz. So as my youngest, my very first memories would be curled up on my dad's lap. He would have a 5-cent El Producto cigar. He'd be reading one of his. He became a doctor of psychology, but we would listen to Duke Ellington and Sarah Vaughan and Ray Charles and Mose Allison and the greats of jazz, and I really didn't understand it at the time, but it was seared on my soul for the rest of my life. amazing. And so at the time when I decided I was going to travel, I had my parents were getting divorced. They actually ended up getting remarried 30 years later. But at the time, my father was it's a great story in itself. But at the time, my father was the associate dean of physical education at the University of Alberta, which is a huge college. And
by the way, I just want to interject, Cameron. My father was also a physical education teacher when I grew up in Miami. So I didn't know we had that in common. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was, he had suggested, I was a hockey player and football player and a pretty successful athlete. So I was going to play football and hockey. And my dad was the associate dean of the phys ed faculty. And I was really upset with my dad because he had moved out and there was other issues, that precipitated his decision, which I respect now, but I didn't understand at the time.
Right.
So out of spite, I went to college for like a week and I really didn't dig it anyway. It didn't feel like it was going to be right for me. So I left college. I went to college for a week, Terry. And I said to my dad, sayonara, I'm hitting the road, I'm getting in my car, and I'm driving in the United States. And of course, my father was mortified. Everybody,
of course, yeah.
And so that's how I got to Texas. Is I got in my car and I went to visit family who actually my mom's brother lived in Oklahoma City, and so I went to visit him, and that's how I got here, and found my way, if you will.
So as an athlete, did you also spend a lot of time in the dance studio?
You know what? My sisters were all dancers, and I was as a young boy, I played hockey, and of course, it's natural ice. You're outside; it's freezing cold. It's Canada.
Right.
I mean, you can make ice anywhere. But my mother would teach the dance class at the community center where we would play hockey. There was 2 ice sheets, 2 hockey rinks there, and so I'll never forget. As a young boy, I was struggling with the fact that I wanted to be a real macho athlete, but I would sneak around and with my skates on and all my gear and peek into the dance class and go, man, I'd really like to do that. But my buddies would think that's just not cool. So I didn't start dancing until I was about 13 or 14, but I got really serious about it. So I was in a dance troupe called the Hitmen, which was an all-black dance group except for myself, and it was like popping and locking back in the very early 70s. So we toured. We actually were on Denny Terrio's Dance Fever. We went down and we were standing champions for like 3 straight weeks.
That's fantastic.
On the Denny Terrio Dance Fever show. So
do you have video of that?
Oh my gosh, I hope not. I mean, Terry, we had the knickers, the knee socks, the white gloves, the floppy hats, the whole bit.
Yeah. So is that part of what led you to working for 20 years with the Dallas Black Dance Theater? Yes. I had a great passion for dance, and with my sister Peggy, she founded a group called Dance Makers in Toronto in the early 70s, and it's still there today. And she's a Royal Order of Canada recipient. She's Canadian, like dance royalty. So when I got to see her and what she was about, the Dallas Black Dance Theater is a modern theater, and so when I got here, I immediately gravitated to being on the board and trying to assist them in growing that group, and it's an amazing group of young dancers. They're really fabulous. So that's what precipitated, my decision to see if I could assist Dallas Black Dance. We can actually share the link on our show and on the page that we're going to have for you, so people can find out more about that dance theater and also your art gallery and all the things that are important to you. So with that, as we're going to be speaking about through this next hour, was there, in addition to your family being supportive, was there anybody else stand out in your early life that either highly encouraged you or discouraged you to live an artistic life?
Well, both my parents were very much, they were very liberal and very much into the arts, and they thought it was a necessity. It wasn't a luxury.
Right.
You had to. You needed to study. You needed to be excited about something that was creative. And they were smart enough to let you make your own choices. And I didn't really come to the creative side of who I really was until my early teens. Really, I mean, I was always sketching and drawing as a young boy, but I never really. I was an athlete more than I was an artist for the first 10 years of my life, but. So it was really, and our family was big enough that there was always a lot going on. Right. Yeah, there was a whole thing going on. So we really didn't have to look outside the family to get inspiration. There was plenty of it right there. And, of course, we all had friends and lots of, neighbors and stuff that were always down for whatever we thought we could get them to do, whether it be, little dance recitals in the backyard, just impromptu or plays or whatever it might be. So it was really my family that really were the early precipitators of my creative, explorations.
So it's not really a new way of, or a bold way of thinking for you to have chosen to follow a path of living a very creative life. And I mean that in every way, not just by you being a visual artist, but everything that you've done. You've created your TV shows, your radio shows, your whole situation. You have really, I consider your life is your canvas. That's been your greatest work, I think, as an artist.
It's been really exciting, Terry, because the thing is my parents always told me, just be open. Just be open to ideas and alternative ways of thinking and other viewpoints. And so I think that more than anything led me to just exploring ideas and once I figured out that athletes could also be highly creative and there's athletic dancers and so once
I'm going to need to cut you off. We're heading into our very first commercial break.
Okay.
But we're going to be back very quickly. So everybody stick around with Cameron Smith to talk about living a creative life with joy and passion. We'll be right back.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Morris. I'm a music and entertainment lawyer, and you are listening to Making It with Terry Wollman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
Welcome back. I'm here in conversation with Cameron Smith, who's calling in from his home city of Dallas. And we were just talking during the break about, you were just saying, if anybody would have ever said to me that you could make a living doing what you do, you wouldn't have believed it, interviewing people for a living and being on the radio. And tell me more about that, because we didn't have time to get into that.
Well, Terry, what was really interesting is I loved R&B and the fusion of jazz from my early upbringing with my dad. And my brother Murray is a fabulous percussionist, drummer, music teacher, and so he was always in funk bands. And so I was really into funk, Earth, Wind and Fire, Average White Band, the Isley Brothers. It goes on and on. And I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if there was a TV show that was about contemporary jazz, because it was very much R&B. Smooth jazz was a vital radio format at the time, and I was working at a radio station in Dallas, not on the creative side. I was an account executive selling marketing platforms to advertisers, and I thought, it'd be really great. VH1 and MTV were in full bloom, and I thought there isn't anything on television that has, contemporary jazz, smooth jazz. And so I came up with this idea, and everybody said I was absolutely out of my mind.
Right.
If it's not Peter Gabriel or the Police, it's not going to happen. Right? So it's crazy, but one of my clients, Mercedes-Benz, had called to say, we're going to cancel our schedule because we have all of these new models and you can't see them on radio. And I said, well, wait a minute. I have a really great idea. I want to come and see you tomorrow morning, and we'll discuss this. But before you make a decision to cancel all of your advertising with me, I'd like to come and see you. I hung up the phone, and Terry, I had no idea what I was going to tell him the next day. Right. But I had this vision for this television show, and I thought, I think maybe I could make this work. So I went and met with the guys at Mercedes-Benz, and I said, look, I've been thinking about this television show. It gives you the visual to show your Mercedes-Benz vehicles, and it celebrates artists like Al Jarreau and David Sanborn and Diana Krall and Harry Connick Jr. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be a great show, and we're going to do this. I didn't have any idea where I was going to even place the show in Dallas, but I said, this is a plan that I've had. I'm moving forward. I would love for you to come with me on this journey.
Beautiful.
And they said, absolutely. We'll come with you on the journey.
That's
great. And I went, oh, my gosh, what am I going to do now?
So you had the advertising together, and then you needed to catch up by putting a plan together to create the vehicle.
No real plan, so I had a radio station at my disposal. The Oasis Smooth Jazz 107.5, which is a great radio station in Dallas Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't a personality. I was on the sales side of the business, but mm-hmm. I went to my boss and I said, listen, Mercedes-Benz wants to do this. Can we have one of our personalities host the show? And my general manager said, well, go talk to the program director at the radio station and see who would host the show. So mm-hmm. I went in to see the program director, and the program director said to me, well, Cameron, how much money does the personality get paid for the show? And I said, well, it's not about the money right now. It's about, saving the business and growing what could be a great advertising vehicle for the radio station. And he said, well, if they're not getting paid, we're not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, all right. I left his office. I went back to the general manager, and I said, well, I tell you what, none of the personalities are available for the show, so I'm going to host it.
Great spin.
He said, fine, go ahead.
Yeah. Nice.
So I called WFAA, which was the ABC affiliate. I set an appointment with them. I said, we have this television show. We're going to support it with radio advertising on the Oasis, the smooth jazz property. Therefore, we can grow the ratings and make it a valuable asset, to ABC. And they said, sure, we'll clear the show. And lo and behold, I started Smooth Jazz Television.
Who was your first guest?
It was remarkable. My first guest was Grover Washington Jr., and it's a great story. The Caravan of Dreams was a fabulous jazz mecca in Fort Worth. It was owned by the Bass family. The Bass family owns a large portion of Disney, very wealthy, very creative guys. And they had a fantastic club in downtown Fort Worth called the Caravan of Dreams. And they had everyone there, Stan Getz, Kirk Whalum, it goes on and on. But Grover was there, and I had paid a news videographer $20 to come with me to the show. I said, I'll take you to the show as my guest. He had his video gear in the trunk of his car. He was shooting for ABC, but there was no news that night, so he was on call for some natural disaster or whatever it might
Tragedy.
be.
Right.
So there we were in the back alley of the Caravan of Dreams in Fort Worth, and I snuck in the back door of the club, and because I didn't have a television show yet, and I knocked on his dressing room door, and I said, Mr. Washington, you don't know me, but I'm launching a television show about jazz, and if I could just even get 5 minutes from you, it would be great. And he said, well, sure. Where are we going to do this? I said, come on out the back door. And he's like, really? And there we were. I had my cameraman, and it was in the alcove of the backstage door, which is really kind of cool. And it said backstage, and there was Grover, and there I was, and that was my very first interview with Grover Washington Jr. for the television show. It was magic. It was fabulous.
I love that. And did you have prepared questions, or were you just in the moment?
Well, I was in the moment, but I loved Grover's stuff. I knew about him, and but no, I was terrified. I had no idea what I was doing.
I guess that's really what I was wondering. Yeah.
He was so gracious, though. It couldn't have been better because he's so kind.
Well,
and
so you
transparent.
But the thing that he saw in you, I'm sure, is that you had a passion and a curiosity and a knowledge of the world that you were in. So you didn't.
As long as Terry, as long as you're wide-eyed and passionate, people will let you get away with a lot of stuff. If it's authentic and it's real and it's what you've got to do.
Yes.
We've all been there with someone who has approached us and said, I'm really not sure, but is this something that you might be able to help me with? And if their intentions are pure,
authentic,
you can't say no to that.
That's right. I agree with you.
Say no to that.
So do you think, looking back, I know that you had experience in 1976. You were hosting, as a teenager, you were on camera hosting Disco Days, a TV show, a music show. Yeah. Is that where did you learn a lot then? I would imagine that you did, about being on camera and where to look and, makeup and how to, just protocol.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it was a wonderful experience. I mean, our dance troupe was like the featured group on the show. We were really, really good. I mean, I wasn't that good, but those around me were stunning talents. Right. They were fabulous dancers. So, and of course, I've always been very outgoing. I'm very gregarious, and so I was always kind of putting myself in the forefront of opportunities like that. And so when it came to that experience, it was just natural for me, and I wasn't going to be denied. I did a lot of homework. I got a lot of coaching. Right. I asked my sisters about stage presence and my father about, how do you do this? And, and so, and again, there were some of my shows on Smooth Jazz Television in the early, specifically the first 5 or 6 episodes, it was absolutely a train wreck. But, you learn, I mean, if you're not willing to put it out there and make and make mistakes and self-deprecate yourself, you're never really going to get on the skinny branches and learn. That's what life is. So
Absolutely.
you just have to put yourself out there and be vulnerable and willing to take risks and willing to understand that, it's a process. You're still learning as a musician and producer and performer,
every day,
Terry.
Every
day.
session, every performance, every time I pick up a guitar. Absolutely.
Yeah,
if you don't, then you're missing out.
Well, and you're not an artist, really.
Right.
Because artists need to continue to grow. I mean, I've often said as a painter, people say, well, how come, why all these different themes and ideas and colors and palettes? And I'm like, I don't want to recite the same lyric and play the same chords over and over again. I have to find a new way to explore, what is next for me artistically. So that's always been my quest, is like, what's next? Okay, I did that. Now I'm pretty good at it, and I'll get better, but what's beyond that? What's next? That's really what gets me excited as an artist.
Me as well. I want to read a quote of yours, speaking about being an artist. My life after television had always been about advocacy, management, and counsel of truly great musicians, while my own art was subordinate to my loyalty and compassion for my clients. So several years ago, I made a conscious decision to return to my lifelong passion and manifest my own art. I stopped managing artists completely and just started managing my own creativity. I love that you said that, managing your own creativity.
Well, I managed artists for a long time, and I managed some incredible artists, but I learned that in all too many cases that they weren't as passionate, as committed as I was for their success. They weren't willing to pay the price. And that's okay, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. My gosh, I was pulling on those reins like crazy to get them to drink. And I really came to the realization. My wife, Summer, finally said to me, "You know what, Cameron? You have so much creativity, and your art is really fabulous. Why don't you focus on your artistry for a while and just see what happens?" And she was absolutely right. And I was terrified. I mean, Terry, it would be like, picking up the oboe or going into acting for you or something,
Right.
I mean, you're a great musician, but it's like, oh, really? I'm going to do this now?
Mm-hmm. I understand that.
I'd always been a very passionate, artist, and again, I didn't give myself enough credit and the opportunity to explore and make mistakes. So I was terrified, but it was so freeing all at the same time.
But that's where the really magic lives, right, Cameron? The mistakes, the falling and the mistakes and the accidents are where the magic lives in art.
That's where the magic happens.
Yes.
Because it makes you love it even more. When you get there, you appreciate it. It's just really, it's a remarkable process. And so and really my art had been subordinate and it was manifesting itself in my frustration too. I wasn't as patient with my clients. Got it.
Right. Right. So, especially when you saw that many of them were not as passionate as you were about art.
Right.
You're carrying the fire and the passion, and you're managing or for them or being right. And you can't want it for somebody more than they want it for themselves.
Right. Yeah, and then you live with the guilt of, it's like, wow, why isn't this artist being more successful?
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be something that I'm doing.
Oh, you took that on yourself. Oh, that's interesting. Right.
Yeah. So you know how this is. You have to kind of look inside and figure out, what it is that, is within your realm of control and what is not. And whatever is not, you got to let it go.
Right. And the best place to look first is inside, look at yourself, and see your contribution.
Joy. You have to find what brings you joy. And music has always brought me a tremendous amount of joy. But there were points where I wasn't joyous in my quest. And it's like, okay, it's time to switch gears. It's time to take stock and go in a different direction. So
what is the most joyful and fulfilling part right now for you about being a visual artist and embracing and pursuing that?
It's the work. Because you can't, especially for visual artists. Well, it's the same thing with musicians too, or poets, or I mean, if you're not completely enraptured with the work, then you're never really going to be happy because you're never really there. It just, for me, to spend a whole day in the studio exploring ideas and coming up with works that I'm proud of. I don't paint for anybody but myself, and so if someone else, I don't need them to validate what it is that I'm doing. It's great when someone who I respect says, "Wow, that is fabulous. I love that." But at the end of the day, just to be able to be an artist and create is, there's less than 5% of us get to do that with our lives, around the world. So, when you kind of get out of just, the American microcosm of entitlement, when you look around and say, wow, I have my own studio, I have my own gallery, people buy my art, but at the end of the day, it's about the work. That's where the joy is for me. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Thank you for expressing that so clearly, and I absolutely understand. We're heading into our next break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the attributes that you've seen in the many successful artists that you have worked with that you think add to them having successful careers. We're also going to be talking about cars, and we're going to be talking about your work with the Dave Koz and Friends at Sea Cruise and the Java Jazz Fest. And also, we're going to be talking about the 1936 Texas State Fair all-electric home of the future. So everybody stick around because we've got some fun things to talk about. We'll be right back with Cameron Smith.
Adam Berry, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Wolf. Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
The Moyer Entertainment Group, in conjunction with ProMark, Dunlop, and Deadline Media, is keeping music in our local schools and presenting local talent to the world through the Temecula Valley Music Awards. Submissions for entry into the TVMA 2017 season are now open in all genres, including a youth category for artists under 18 for the October 7th Star-Studded Awards Show, where 100% of the proceeds go towards supporting local music education in the Temecula Valley. Details, tvmawards.org.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Bonjour, c'est Jean-Luc Ponty, le violoniste, et vous écoutez Making It avec Terry Wolfman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome back. I'm here with Cameron Smith, and we are talking about life and art and passion and integrity and being vulnerable. You know, and those are, I think, really interesting qualities that a lot of people, I guess, are afraid to live in. And you are not, my friend. You know, you've been living a life, you know, just, you know, following your curiosity and your muse and your dreams and your passion. You know, and it's really paid off.
Terry, the thing is, people need to understand, and we all do. We're all human. It doesn't always work. It's okay. You know, it's all right. It's just you need to be in amongst friends who love you and who will allow you to be vulnerable and make mistakes and nurture you through that. And if you're not with those kinds of people, then, you know, your quest is to try to find those kinds of people and spend as much time around them as you possibly can.
Right, and it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not necessarily as, you know, romantic or glamorous as it might seem, but boy, is it fulfilling and worthwhile.
No, it's certainly not glamorous, but it's really fulfilling. I mean, there's nothing more exciting for a musician than to be in the moment with other cats, and you're just in the zone, and magic is happening. It's like this eruptive, emotive. There's nothing like it. It's just wonderful. So
yes.
Those are the. It's not about the money. It better not be, because then it's not really art.
No, it can't.
Right?
Be. Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
if you end up being very successful, that's great. But you know, that should not be, you know, your impetus to make art.
So you have worked with managing and interviewing and being a concert promoter and host with some amazing artists, and have gotten to know them quite well, many artists over the years. I'm wondering what attributes you have seen and observed that you think have attributed to them having successful careers. We've already talked about the ones who have not brought their passion or the full level of commitment as you have, but what do you see as far as common qualities for the people that really bring it? You know, what is there any one thing or a few things that you noticed? Well,
certainly. You know, you have to have a tremendous amount of passion for what you do, and so there's got to be a thirst. There, you know, the people that I've observed that I really respect. There's some artists that I don't respect that are incredible artists in a larger context. But the ones that I really gravitate to, that I respect, are the ones that are incredibly open and kind and giving, because you better be really, really good if you're not kind and giving. You know, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And for me as a concert promoter, if I have a choice between someone who, you know, is an incorrigible diva, who may be incredibly gifted, but is, you know, a headache, I'll pick the guy that just works harder, that shakes your hand with authenticity and plays their butt off, but may not be as successful. Right. I'll take that guy. So the qualities, I think, an ability to be human, to really listen and to collaborate and be kind. And then when it comes to the music or to their craft, ferocious focus. Everything else melts away. We talked about it during the break, Terry, but for musicians, the way I would kind of couch it is, when you're on stage and something's not going well, you got to just figure out how you're gonna do the best with what you have at the time, with what you've been given. So you have to just be fearless, and you have to go with what you have. You have to just be expansive, not contractive, and figure it out. There's some musicians who will remain unnamed. Many are very well known, who may have been on stage somewhere, and there's a technical issue, and they shut the whole show down.
They stop the show.
They stop, and people pay good money to come and see your artistry. You got to figure out a way to get through it. So I think a tenacious commitment to the art and to have a complete focus on the task at hand. Everything else falls away. So, those would be kind of, and to be willing, again, to be hurt and to be vulnerable, because it's not easy, and it takes a very thick skin. It doesn't mean you don't hear the critics, but you have to believe in your own destiny with more passion than anyone else, because that's the only way you're going to be successful.
Yeah, well put. Let's talk about the you being the co-host, or one of the co-hosts of the Dave Koz and Friends at Sea cruises. For those people that haven't experienced being on Dave's cruises, can you describe your role as co-host and also talk about what led you to working with Dave?
Well, Dave and I have known each other for a long time. So I was just thrilled when I got Smooth Jazz TV going. It was an opportunity for me to really become, an advocate for the artist that was very meaningful. And so when the show was in full bloom, Dave, of course, was very kind. He coached me through and introduced me to a number of artists that I would not have had access to otherwise. So I'm indebted to Dave for his generosity and his kindness. I got involved because I wasn't going to be denied. I wanted to be part of that.
Got it.
So,
right. Yeah.
So I just said to Dave, I said, look, if I need to clean toilets, that's fine with me. I'm going to get on the ship, and I'll start doing whatever you need me to do. And of course, he said, look, I'd love to have you come and assist. And I was part of, the creative process. So Dave will call me and ask me, what my thoughts are on specific theme nights or things of that nature, which is really great. I mean, I've known Dave for 30 years, so we've had a long relationship together. And just to be part of that is a thrill. I mean, that's, I've been doing it a long time, but it never gets old, because the passion, the fans on the ship, as you know, Terry, you've been there, you've performed.
Yeah.
They are.
It's unlike any other experience.
It's incredible. I mean, here you are in Mykonos, Greece, or Santorini, and then you're in Venice the next day, and you're in Italy, and the music is just incredible. And of course, the artists, for the most part, 99% of them are just so accessible and kind that there are very few that aren't completely accessible to the fans, and they love that, because it's like meeting their idol. It's so great, and they're so kind, and the fans are very gracious. So it's been an incredible experience. It's something I look forward to every year. It's just fabulous.
Yeah, understandably, it's an amazing cruise, and it's an amazing community of people, that come together every year to do that.
That's what I say. I've said it many times, Terry. If we could all get along the way we do on that ship, this world would be a wonderful place.
Yes, I remember you telling me that, and I think we were in Mykonos or someplace beautiful having that conversation. But I totally agree. because it's where people come together from really very different cultural backgrounds and financial backgrounds and geographical backgrounds, and are bonded together by music, by beautiful places, by food, by community, by conversation, by art and creativity.
It's really the music. It's the music that fuses it all together.
Yeah, well, the music,
really,
the level of music is just mind-boggling, even to those of us that are creating the music.
That's true.
Yeah.
I've seen you on stage many times, kind of just going, "Wow, am I here doing this?"
Right. This is just great. Yeah. It's wonderful. Yeah. Let's talk about the Java Jazz Festival and your job responsibilities as host and curator.
Well, it's interesting. I started working with Java Jazz 11 years ago. They're in their 14th season coming up this March. And Peter Gonta, who is a very successful philanthropist, an Indonesian, a guy who he's actually the ambassador to Poland for Indonesia now, but he's a very successful philanthropist, had seen my television show. He has a home in Bel Air, and he saw my television show on NBC in Los Angeles, and he also saw it on American Airlines, after the Letterman show.
Right.
And so he called me and asked if I would promote the festival on the television show, and then potentially bring some artists with me that I thought would, kind of set the table for a contemporary jazz night. And so we did, and it was highly successful, and I've been working with Mr. Gonta ever since. So it's really amazing. I took the Chick Corea Electric Band this year. I took Arturo Sandoval. I took Rick Braun, a Kirk Whalum. Last year I took Sting and Chris Bodie, and there's 12 stages, Terry. It's incredible. It's a massive festival, and the amazing thing about Indonesians is they know every note.
Right.
Chick Corea was playing his electric band set, and 22-year-old kids are in the audience, and they know every lick.
That's fantastic.
They're riveted. It's incredible. You don't see that with American audiences. 22-year-old kids in America, they have they're into something completely different, which I think is a tragedy, but it is what it is.
We have about 5 minutes left, so I want to ask you a couple of quick questions, and then I've got a final question that we'll spend a little bit of time on. So let's talk about cars for a moment. I know that you love vintage Porsches, and what is, especially your Carrera, and what is it about vintage cars that appeals to you?
I love classic American design. And Porsches, they're German, but I just love the whole romance of the automobile and what it is. And I just love great design aesthetic. And so for me, I've always loved like those small, like I love Aston Martins, like old ones, Healey's, DB5, the James Bond 1965 Goldfinger. I think it reminds me of, I don't know. I think if jazz had four wheels, it would be like it'd be
an Austin Healey Sprite, right?
It would, exactly.
Right.
I mean, they're just cool. There's something just Rat Pack swanky about them, and so
right.
When I drive my Carrera, I have a 993. I have a 96 993. I drive it every day. I could drive it. It's going to drive forever.
Right. Yeah. You enjoy it.
I don't. Yeah. I drive it every day. I don't ogle over it. I just enjoy driving it, and it's a lot of fun, and I tinker with it, and it's just fun.
Let me ask you another couple of quick questions. One of the many ways that you express yourself artistically, I'm saying this because I know you, is through your wardrobe. So I want to talk about your sense of style and fashion. Where did you get your deep sense of swagger from? Come on, Cameron.
My sisters.
Got it.
Yeah. And my Uncle Frank, who was a very successful physician, he was an oncologist at the Baylor Medical Center in Houston. When I was a young boy, he graduated medical school when he was like 26. He was brilliant. He had graduated high school when I think he was 15, went right into medical school. But he had the most amazing suits. And whenever I saw my Uncle Frank, we look almost identical too. I said, I want to be like that guy. And he had awesome suits, Terry. Like, he was always just absolutely impeccably adorned. So that's where I got my sense of style.
So let me ask you this final closing question. And if we don't have time for talking about the electric home of the future, we're going to do it as a bonus question after the show.
Okay,
because that's important to me.
That's my house. I love it. We can talk about that too.
But I close every show. We've got about 2.5 minutes left with the same question. At this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, that's a great question. Believe. Just believe in yourself, because it will. We build these mythical roadblocks in our own mind, and our self-talk is all too often negative. And I was blessed to have a family that there wasn't a whole lot of negative self-talk going on in the house. So it wasn't a trend. It wasn't something, but we all have these trepidations. We all have these fears, and it's okay. Acknowledge it, but work your way through it. And be kind. When we're young, we don't always understand what kindness really means to all of us in the human condition. But there were very few points in time that I felt that I didn't do the right thing, but we've all been there. So I think just believing in yourself and being kind to those around you as a constant, and to turn off a lot of the exterior noise and to not worry about what other people may think about you, the way you may look, the way you may speak. I think we need a whole lot more of that, especially right now in this social environment that we're in now. We have to be open to being kind and to believing that, we're all in this thing together. And this is not a dress rehearsal. You only get one opportunity to live your life, so you might as well go ahead and take the chances, because, there's very few cats that are on their deathbed saying, well, I wish I would have done that, So that's kind of what I would say.
Thank you, Cameron. I really appreciate you spending the hour with me and sharing your life and your stories. And we will be back next week with more interesting stories. So, Cameron Smith, thank you so much.
Terry, you've been delightful. What a thrill for me. I'll never forget this.
And for me as well.
Have a great day, okay? Much love to you.
You too. I'm here with Cameron Smith, and I had so much fun speaking to you on my radio show today that we actually ran out of time, but there's one other question that I really wanted to ask you, Cameron.
Of course, whatever. You can ask me anything, Terry. You know that.
Thank you. For 22 years, you lived in a Bauhaus Art Deco home, which served as the 1936 Texas State Fair all-electric home of the future. First of all, how cool is that? That would only be you that would be attached to that story.
We talked about this earlier, but I love design. I love really masterful, thoughtful design. And this house is like, you got it. Well, Terry, the next time you come to Texas, you're gonna have to come and visit. But
I can't wait.
The cool thing, the house was built for the 100th anniversary of the Texas State Fair in 1936. The State Fair turned 100, but it was also the World's Fair that year, and they did this amazing installation in Fair Park of these beautiful Bauhaus Art Deco women, these structures, these sculptures that are probably 50 feet tall. They're beautiful, and there's a set that flanks both sides of this beautiful reflecting pool with these Art Deco fountains. And so they built this house in a residential neighborhood about 15 minutes from the State Fair as the home of the future. So it was it was something out of a Popular Mechanics kind of vibe, because no one had ever seen Art Deco like this. It was Bauhaus, so it was very German, flat-roofed, curved walls, lots of glass brick. And so in Texas, they didn't know what to think. As a matter of fact, my neighbor from across the street, Terry, God rest his soul, he passed away about 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. But he was born and raised across the street and saw the construction of the house and was there the day that they opened it for patrons of the state fair to walk through it. And he said to me, Cameron, they were lined up around the block and they were oohing and ahhing like they were on Wheel of Fortune when they walked in there. And he said everybody that went into the house, they thought for sure somebody was out of their mind when they saw the design. Yeah. And it was, at the time, it was $15,000 in 1936. And the companion homes that were being built in Palm Springs and in the Los Angeles area were in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. Right. So this was like, people said, this house will never sell. No one's ever going to love it. And of course it became, it's an iconic piece of Texas real estate now.
It was totally Jetsons, right?
Totally Jetsons. It's great, right? Yeah. It's so crazy. Right. It's like a small shoebox set on top of a larger shoebox. Uh-huh. So when you go upstairs and you exit the living space, you walk out onto these massive second floor decks that overlook the pool and the grounds. And it's just, it's fabulous. Yeah. But at the time, it was in the neighborhood was kind of sketchy. It hadn't been gentrified yet, and so when I saw the house and the real estate agent told me how much it was, I said, "I'm buying it right now." This is the house for me. But it's really amazing because with all of my jazz photographs and all the things that I've collected from artists over the years, it's the perfect canvas for all of this fabulous memorabilia and stuff, all my African art and photography from Herman Leonard, of Duke Ellington and Count Basie, and I mean it's the perfect gallery space for my artistic musings. I couldn't ask for anything better. It's just you'll have to come and visit sometime. Okay, you got it. I am going to take you up on that, and I look forward to it. That house couldn't have a more perfect owner. So thanks for sharing that story. Thanks again for doing my show. Everybody, if you want to hear the entire interview, go to entertalkradio.com/makingit, or you'll be able to hear it on iTunes as a podcast under Making It with Terry Wollman. So you don't want to miss this episode with Cameron. It's extremely insightful, and I would say inspirational as well. So thanks again, Cameron. Love you, and it's great talking with you today. Terry, it's been an absolute delight. I love you. I have tremendous respect for your artistry and just you as a human being. So carry on, man. You are awesome. Thank you. Likewise.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Wollman.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be the music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.